guys, welcome to Data Shots. My name is Ram.
And I'm Bhargav.
And today we're going to talk about something which is very exciting. We're going to talk about the other PLG. Normally, what we talk about is product-led growth. Today, what we're going to share with you our fourth recommendation for a great 2021 for growth stage brands to really thrive is purpose-led growth. Okay, it is no surprise. It's nothing new. But let me just contextualize why seriously thinking about purpose-led growth is something which every CMO should think about. A couple of studies and data points. As per Accenture, any brand that has a purpose-driven strategy of engagement has a 66% propensity of resonance with their audiences. Let me put it the other way. 66% of consumers are looking for brands with some kind of purpose in their messaging. I'll also add another study by Deloitte where the number one recommendation that they have for this year is for brands to get very, very clear in their purpose. I'm going to go ahead and read that to you guys. And it's directly from the Deloitte's 2021 Global Marketing Trends survey. I'll put a link down on the show notes. But it says like this, I'm reading it out. Organizations that know why they exist and who they are built to serve, are uniquely positioned to navigate unprecedented change. What we've gone through in 2020 has been an unprecedented change. So whether you are an enterprise customer, whether you're an enterprise brand, or whether you're a very, very young growth stage brand, if you can really start honing in on a purpose-led growth strategy, I think it's going to be super powerful for 2021. Okay? Bhargava, you want to talk about why this purpose-led growth is important right now?
So one of the things that you just brought out, the pandemic and everything that happened in 2020, it made a significant difference. For example, it put a lot of squeeze on CMOs on their budget in terms of performance. Digital was one of the many strategies until 2019. 2020 changed it that digital is the strategy for a lot of these brands. And that's also leads to the next point of something that Simon Sinek talks a lot about, golden circle, right? So we've talked a few times about it, about a whole set of brands know what they're doing, but very few brands understand how it gets done. And even very less number of brands know why they're doing something like that. That's the deep purpose aspect of why something is happening, why a consumer will resonate with what they're doing. I would also say that the third point is something that ties to a lot of the things that we've talked earlier in the show is it's a confluence of multiple things that's been happening in terms of consumer preferences, right? Because now it's access to information is democratized. We all are more aware of what's happening, a growing bunch of conscious customers in terms of kind of things that you want to use in terms of health, in terms of privacy, in terms of climate, and also a lot about decentralization, right? So we see this entire talk about big tech versus decentralizing a lot of things that's happening. So those are things that I see that happening. But I would pass the baton to you and ask, how do you think that purpose-led growth is impacting the bottom line? How do you think it's evolving into something that brands need to take notice of?
I'm going to pick up from what you should just concluded, right? Because I think there's a confluence of multiple factors that are coming together, which means that not only are people aware of the greater climate causes, decentralization, you name it, right? So green, open supply chains, organic, fair trade, I can go on and on about that. And on top of that, not just consumers, but the industry as well is actually acknowledge the whole privacy, centricity, etc. Which means that people are already filtering messages and brands through these value filters, through these tangible, intangible, specific, let's call them factors, right? Right? And so any brand that is very clear on their purpose and can communicate that purpose can penetrate through these value filters much more easily. So if there are two brands, at the end of the day, what does a brand need, right? So frankly speaking, we all want to increase our bottom line. We all want to increase our audiences. We all want to increase our growth as fast as possible. And at the same time, no user, no customer is going to buy something because it has, it is green, but it doesn't have product efficacy. Because we all want good shirts and we just want something good. But if two products and two brands offer the same exact widget, okay, let us say two shoes, okay, and if one shoe has a better purpose-led story, okay, it doesn't have to be like I'm going to save the world or whatever, some kind of a story which is attached to it, and it can actually justify it, that brand is going to get better visibility, better resonance. It can penetrate through people's filters much more easier, and it can actually gain the kind of attention and advantage that brands are craving for. So that directly affects your bottom line. It might affect not just your return on investment, but can also affect the return on influence. Okay, so it's absolutely critical to really understand that whether you are selling pins or like I don't know whatever it isn't the most expensive thing, anything that is wrapped around a really authentic purpose is going to really help you. That's where the difference, really is.
That's awesome. Yeah, in the previous show we talked about return on influence. I think this is a
Yeah,
introduction into this particular concept. I would so can you pick one B2B example and one B2C example and talk about it? I think
I think you
the
should pick the B2B example because I'm not a big B2B guy. I'm a B2C guy. Yeah.
okay.
What comes to your mind?
B2C.
B2B.
I B2B. Okay. Okay. Let's do B2C first, and then we'll do B2B.
Okay.
So B2C, I can think of Third Love. What do you think of that?
I think Third Love is a kick-ass brand. Okay, and it is a brand rooted in its purpose written all over it. Okay, uh, let me just paraphrase by saying that just go and take a look at what have they done with Third Love. Obviously, I'm not an expert in bras. Okay, I'm just an expert in branding and marketing. But the brilliant strategy was to really hone in on where women had a challenge with respect to having comfortable innerwear and a lack of body positivity, inclusivity, size inclusivity, and image inclusivity that was lacking in the current crop of brands, which is Victoria's Secret, whatever. Like there are multiple, from Hanes to Victoria, whatever it might be, right? So when they came around, their purpose was to make bras accessible to all shapes, all sizes, and so that's why they said Third Love, right? So I feel that their branding and their communication has been completely consistent and rooted in their purpose of inclusive, empowering, body positive women's in a way. And it is also very congruent with the times that we live in. And so, in a very short period of time, they have grown to a level where they can directly challenge something like Victoria's Secret. And they've been so successful that even Victoria's Secret has turned around and basically made changes to their branding so that they can actually compete with Third Love. So that's one thing which I think is very, very powerful. So
I
now I
totally
turn
agree.
over to you.
So just on this, right? So think about all the body shaming and size zero concept that's been like literally
Yeah,
brought
it's
out
time to
the
go.
ads by major brands. I think this is like very grounded in terms of how people feel empowered in a brand, right from its name to its messaging is
Yeah.
purpose led. Uh,
Now I'm going to ask
okay,
you to choose a brand to tell me what you think is really awesome. Yeah.
okay. The one that I really love is a privacy focused analytics tool called Plausible. So now
Possible or possible?
Plausible,
Plausible. Okay.
PLAU.
Okay.
It's plausible, right? Plausible is the name of the
Everything is
company.
possible.
Uh, it's yeah, it's plausible. So there's an 800-pound gorilla in town, and that's called Google Analytics.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
pretty much most of the sites that's out there have Google Analytics as their primary analytics tool, and it has its purpose in terms of providing analytics for business users. It's easy to set up. But one of the challenges of having something like that is that it's not privacy conscious. And this is something that we talked about in some of the earlier episodes about using first party data and other things that tie to how you can track data and measure data. Plausible brings about the privacy conscious of not personally identifying
Yeah.
the user who's out there. So that's a company, and it's been around only for a year or two. It's a bootstrapped, really small company, and they've really grown to. And the interesting thing is, while Google Analytics is free, Plausible is not free, and still it's made close to $10,000 monthly recurring revenue in a very short span of time. So very impressive set of activity in terms of purpose-led growth.
Listen, it's a very, very good point. And also, I didn't know about Plausible before this, which means that you are a prime customer and a prime audience for Plausible because you are in the data space, you understand the implications of privacy. And so, for somebody like you, this service, this product really, really makes sense because I know that you are a very privacy, conscious, not, with respect to all that we discussed with respect to data, right? Which means that you now know about plausible and you have an opportunity to an alternative to the 800-pound gorilla that you had mentioned.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It means that you're an ideal audience for them, right? Through you, I know, and through this, many other people will know, right? So I think that's the power of the network effects, isn't it? Like isn't that awesome? Like they have actually reached out to you and you're able to understand it. You've now become a sort of an evangelist for them because you like what they're doing, right? So it's a very powerful thing, isn't it?
It's also how you build a tribe, right? Like we talked about it earlier. So this
Yeah,
is also a way of
classic.
early days a tribe in this particular space.
Yeah,
But as customers and consumers are demanding privacy, right? I mean, okay, so think about it. I mean, I think privacy itself is a separate topic on its own, but think about it. When I go to a retail store, I walk into a Sephora or a Macy's, no one is hounding me wherever I go. But why does that happen when I go to a website and I shop something that I keep seeing that wherever I go and browse?
because
That's
people just want
not.
to like spend a ton of money to just waste on ads. That's why.
I know, I know. We just talked yesterday about how brands spend
But
based.
coming back to like the plausible story that you mentioned, right? You are now wearing two hats. One is obviously as somebody who's a data scientist and who understands this and who can actually help. And you are also an audience for them, which means that you are in a very, very good position to even basically even advise them on what would be the data strategy for more people to know about them. And I think that same strategy can be applicable to Third Love as well, isn't it? So just,
Absolutely.
I want you to put your data hat on and basically just tell the world, like, if you were going to go and talk to them, what would be your recommendation? How would you like help?
Okay, so it always follows the same three things, right? One is define the KPIs. Like when you
Yeah,
define a purpose, figure out what the KPI is. Like what is your measure of your purpose? So that's extremely important. Then, for example, something like here, the techniques when you even get started, something like Plausible or Third Wave, they are going after a market which is already well established. You're not creating a new
Yes.
set of people who are going to use it. You're going
Yep.
to take off from a set of people
They're always
who.
going to take from a set of other established audiences, right?
There's this entire thing of how it goes. So there's
So
early
Third
adopter.
Love takes from Victoria's Secret's audiences. Plausible takes from Google Analytics audiences.
Google Analytics audience. Precisely. You just take off, you're just carving out a niche from the existing audience. And so you need to start, be scrappy, and then find who your early adopters are, your initial sets of users. But as you go from 0 to 10 users to 10, 100 users to 1,000 users, you can start doing smart lookalikes. You can figure out who your early adopters are and then find lookalikes.
Yeah.
And when you start to scale to a much larger set, for example, Plausible is B2B, so the segment is going to be slightly more narrower, but for Third Wave, it's like half the world's population.
Third love, you mean, right? Yeah, exactly.
Right. So you're going to literally look at half, 3-4 billion people in the world, and so which means that when you scale, at some point you need to start using advanced data modeling techniques like machine learning, cluster analysis to get something like that. But I would say that these are the things that you would start thinking about, right? So KPI, define what the metric for your purpose-led growth is, define the techniques, and then have the tools in place there which can help you implement and measure those strategies.
Awesome. So I hope, first of all, I think these two examples are pretty awesome, right? So I think for people who want to just basically have a quick takeaway on how to actually drive this purpose-led growth for 2021, we have 3 suggestions. Okay, so I'll let Bhagavat take the first one, and then I'll basically follow up on the second.
Obviously, the first one is have purpose-led growth.
Yes. Just start thinking around purpose-led growth, which means that every brand has a purpose. You don't have to save the world. You can just say my purpose is to make, like you remember, like we were talking about Torchy's tacos. They do damn good tacos. That's it. That's their purpose. Enough.
That's it.
You're not going to save the taco world. No problem. Yeah.
Right.
I think the second one is to keep it very practical, which is what we just discussed, right? So you don't have to like think it like grandiose purpose is not something that's going to resonate. Keep it very grounded, keep it very practical. I think it's very, very important. And the third thing I think is something which is very, very data rooted, right? The third thing is like a combination of what Bhagavan and I have been discussing over the last 3-4 days, 3 episodes. If you have an opportunity to take a look at the previous episodes, please go and do that. But then it really marries down to, comes down to marrying your first party data with your purpose-led growth strategy. That'll give you a theme, right? And then marry that to how are you going to actually drive your return on influence? Influence meaning this is my purpose. I'm going to influence my audiences rooted in that purpose. These 3 things are absolutely critical. So have a purpose-led strategy, purpose-led growth strategy. Second is keep it super practical. Third, use your first-party data to understand the themes of your purpose-led growth strategy, and then leverage your return on influence, to drive your messaging. So I feel like that will cap it for today. So Bhargav, you have anything else?
No, this is good. This is great.
So thank you for listening, guys. If you guys have any questions, drop us a note. We are at www.resonant.agency, as well as at Resonant Agency as our social handle. If you love this, please share, like to us, sub to us. And if you have any questions around this, ping Bhargava on his social handle or me at my social handle. Thank you and have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.